What's going on, everybody? This is SlackerReviews, and today I'm going to be reviewing Mandatory Fun by Weird Al Yankovic. Now, if you watched my last video about Weird Al and this album, you will know that I was pretty excited for this album, but I just had one worry. Is Weird Al still relevant? Can he be relevant in the age of parodies on YouTube? Does Weird Al still have a place? And that's the question I posed, and most of the people in the comments said, yes, Weird Al is still relevant. So after listening to this album multiple times through, do I think Weird Al is still the king of parody, or is it time to call it a career? To find out, let's dive into Mandatory Fun. So the album starts off with a song called Handy, which is a parody of Fancy by some generic female rapper. This song is okay. It's not one of his better parodies, but it's a decent way to start off the album. The concept is admittedly a little bit generic. I mean, I'm so fancy, I'm so handy. Weird Al has a lot of songs like that, but in this case, it's just not that great. It's good, don't get me wrong. There's some good laughs in here. Of course, Weird Al is a very good lyricist, so there's a lot of catchy lyrics, and Weird Al is actually a pretty decent rapper. Hell of a lot better than the original, but not one of Weird Al's best. Moving on. Track 2 is called Lame Claim to Fame. This is a very funny track. The essential idea is it's just about someone who kind of brags about some interaction with a celebrity that really is unimpressive and kind of mundane, like my second cousin or whatever knows a guy who knows Brad Pitt or whatever it is. It's a very funny track, and also musically, it's top notch. It's a rock, one of those rock tracks, kind of like CNR on Alpocalypse. Very, very great riff. Shows off Weird Al's musical talent. Weird Al's band, at least. He doesn't play guitar. So Lame Claim to Fame is a well-composed, very funny track that has become one of my favorites on this album. Moving on. Track number 3 is called Foil, and it's a parody of Royal by Lorde. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Anyway, Foil is definitely a step in the right direction as far as the parodies on this album goes. It's a lot better than Handy, and it's pretty decent. It's very funny. Vintage Weird Al track, definitely. You got that creative charm with the lyrics. The first verse, I was like, okay, yeah, aluminum foil, how clever. But the second verse really put the song into perspective, and he starts talking about the Illuminati and like the New World Order, and that was very funny. Definitely the song was saved by the second verse. If he would have kept going about wrapping sandwiches, I'm like, okay. But no, he definitely turned it around, and Foil is a very good parody and definitely a solid track. Track 4 is called Sports Song, and I really enjoyed this track. I'm not a big fan of sports, but I did play when I was younger, and I have to say this song, to a T, represents what sports is. We're great, you suck. And this one was hilarious. Really, really good track. It kind of reminds me of Harvey the Wonder Hamster. Just in the way that it kind of feels like it's a marching band. It uses a lot of horns and trumpets and those kind of instruments. It's really funny that when he just goes on for a while, it's just, we're great, you suck. That was really funny. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Sports Song. Solid track. Not very long, but it is one of my favorites on this album. Okay, now we're at Word Crimes, parody of Blurred Lines by Robin Thicke. I'll say this is the best parody on this album. I really love this song. First of all, the concept was brilliant. He could have easily went the route of just making fun of Blurred Lines and pointing out how perverted and messed up that song was, but he didn't. He went this route of doing this super creative song about basically the grammar police of YouTube. You know, those people who respond to every comment with the slightest spelling error just to piss people off. One thing to point out about this track is the way Al kind of mocks Robin Thicke's style singing by singing really high. I mean, if you listen to Blurred Lines, Robin Thicke does this ridiculously high, kind of annoying tone when he sings, and Weird Al just totally captures that in a over-exaggerated way, and I thought it was hilarious. So Word Crimes was a unique concept that was very well executed. Definitely in my top 2 favorite tracks on this album. Moving on. So the next track is called My Own Eyes, and I have to say this is probably on the same line as Foil, being a solid track, but nothing too special. It's not a standout, but it is a good for a couple listens. So it's basically about seeing crazy stuff in your life, and a lot of it's just so absurd at points that you can't help but laugh. But after you listen to it a few times and kind of, get the creative, funny little moments in there, there's not much to come back to here. It's not very outstanding musically. Lyrically, it's Weird Al, it's funny, but it's not too outstanding. Good for a couple listens, but not something that I would listen to more than twice. Moving on. Okay, so now we're at the traditional polka medley. This one is called Now That's What I Call Polka. If you don't know very much about Weird Al, then let me catch you up. Essentially, every album he has what's called a polka medley. And in the polka medley, he basically takes popular songs that are on top 40 radio at the time of the album, and he mashes them all together in like a polka medley. Weird Al has always had that polka side to him because that's his main instrument, is the accordion, which is primarily used in polka music. And this one is one of his best polka medleys. I think it's better than the last 2 polka medleys. I don't think it's better than Angry White Boy Polka, but it's definitely one of his best. I got a couple gripes with it. Like, there's maybe 1 or 2 songs that are a bit old that he uses on here. I mean, I kind of cringed when I heard Sexy and I Know It. I mean, come on, Al. That song was on the radio when your last album came out. Like, are you really still putting that on there? But that's a minor gripe. It doesn't ruin the song. Now, if you're a real Weird Al fan, I know for sure you're going to love this song. My only gripes, like I said, a couple of the songs may be a bit outdated, but the majority of the songs chosen to be in this medley were excellent. I'm not going to ruin the surprises, but just if you like Weird Al, you're in for a treat with this track. Moving on. Now we get to what I consider the weakest track on this album, and that is Mission Statement. To be honest, I just don't really like this song. I didn't find it very funny. I don't know, I just didn't like it. If there's any positives, I would say that the instrumentation is very good. The guitar work was very solid, but as a whole, the song just doesn't hold up. I don't know. I listened to it many times, trying to get into it, just trying to grasp the idea of it, and it's just not very funny, and I can expect that from Weird Al. His albums always have a few mediocre songs, and unfortunately, this album is no exception. Moving on. Okay, track 9 is called Inactive, and it's a parody of Radioactive by Imagine Dragons. This definitely recovers from the last track. This is a very solid parody. Not as good as Word Crimes, but it's definitely better than Handy and Foil. The concept seems obvious, but Al definitely pulls it off. Yeah, just very good. It's funny. I really love his take on the whole breathing thing. If you've heard Radioactive, near the beginning of the song, he does this breathe thing, and Weird Al does that. I'm not going to spoil how he does it, but it's really funny. So yeah, not much to say about it. Solid parody. Moving on. Alright, track number 10 is called First World Problems, and just based on that title alone, you know that this is going to be a funny track. It's basically exactly what you would expect. Al going through all the first world problems, and me, as somebody who grew up in a privileged society, it's nice to kind of have a reality check from Weird Al, and just kind of see that our problems, a lot of them don't really matter, and honestly, to be honest, a lot of the things that he says in here have kind of frustrated me before, so I'm not a terrible person, but yeah, I definitely can relate to this song a little bit. Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of catchy. Instrumentation-wise, it's not outstanding, but definitely the humor makes up for it. So, First World Problems is definitely another solid track. Moving on. Okay, next up we got Tacky, which is a parody of Happy by Pharrell Williams. This song, I'm a little, split on this song. I do like it. I think it's funny, but it's not one of his best parodies. I think it's better than Handy, but the rest of the parodies are better, definitely. It's okay. It is okay. One thing I will say about this song is I don't like the video. I was disappointed by the video. It was kind of boring, like not much was going on. And I expect a lot more from Weird Al videos because he has some genius videos. I mean, the fat video, the white nerdy video. He's one of the best at making music videos in music history, and this one just wasn't very good. But the song, it's decent. It's funny, it's catchy, typical Weird Al, but nothing special. Moving on to the final track. Alright, we made it. We're at the final track, Jackson Park Express. Man, what a way to close off this album. I really love this song. Weird Al definitely finished strong. This song is very reminiscent of tracks like Albuquerque and Trapped in the Drive-Thru, where it's essentially like a long 10 to 15 minute song where he goes into extreme detail about a certain event. And this one, I have to admit, I didn't like it until I got halfway through. The 5-minute point, I instantly got it. Because at first I was a bit confused on what he was going for. I didn't know if it was just supposed to be stupid or if it had a point. And it hit me what the song was halfway through it. It's basically describing a man and a woman meeting on a bus through the man's perspective. It's essentially I take it as a desperate dude who he's looking at her and she's kind of glancing at him, and in reality she's just kind of looking around the bus and happened to glance at him, doesn't hardly even notices he's there, but he takes these visual hints that she's like really into him, and he develops this very personal relationship that's honestly disturbing at times. If you listen to it, you'll know what I'm talking about in this one line. So he develops this super attachment to her, and then when she gets up and leaves the bus, not even realizing that he's there, he thinks that it's like their breakup. I don't know. It's a stupid song, but it's really great. Maybe not as good as Albuquerque or Trapped in the Drive-Thru, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Perfect way to end this album. Yeah, definitely awesome song, and I will be listening to this quite a bit. So overall, what did I think of Mandatory Fun? Well, to answer the question I posed at the beginning, is Weird Al still relevant? I will say yes, Weird Al is still relevant. I enjoyed this album. I'm not going to say it's some of his best work, and I'm not going to say it's bad. I just think it's a solid, funny album. And if you liked Alpocalypse, I think you will enjoy it. If you didn't like Alpocalypse, and if you're an old school Weird Al fan, if you're like in 3D, Dare to Be Stupid, that's it, then you might like some tracks. But it's pretty much just like what he's been doing recently, and I like it. I think it's funny. Like I said, there's some bad songs, there's some mediocre songs, but there's also a lot of gems on here. Word Crimes, awesome. Polka Medley was awesome. Jackson Park Express was awesome. Lame Claim to Fame was awesome. And I'm obviously missing a couple, but, it's solid, but it's not amazing. Okay, I think if you're an Al fan, take it for what it is. You will get a kick out of it. There's a lot of funny songs. There's a lot of funny lyrics. And I think Al is, in fact, still the king of parody. I think this is better than a lot of stuff that's on Top 40 Radio. Most of it. And I think Weird Al is still one of the best parody artists out there, even in the digital age. I still think he is probably the best at doing parody songs. He just has the most clever lyrics. He usually doesn't go for generic ideas. Sometimes he does, but Most of his ideas are very creative, and I give him props for this album. I know I can see the reviews now. A lot of people are not going to like this, and I can see why. It's kind of silly at points, like any Weird Al album, and some people are just not going to accept it. But personally, I do accept it. I think it is a solid piece of comedy music. Now, I will say I probably prefer Apocalypse a little bit over this album, but I think it's either one step below it or it's right there. I don't think it's better than Straight Outta Linwood. Straight Outta Linwood to me is one of his best albums, but I think it's fun entertainment, and every Weird Al album to me I enjoy more than the previous one just because the jokes are more relevant, you know? And I think right now I'm going to enjoy this album, but we'll see how it stands up in the future. Maybe the jokes won't stick and it just will fall flat when I listen to this years from now, but that hasn't happened with his other records, so I don't see how this is any different. So Weird Al, thumbs up from me. My final rating is going to be 7.7 out of 10. Solid work, not great, not bad. I enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe if you have not already. This is Slacker, and we'll see you next time.